and more recently, the science of complex systems. In 1984, a diverse interdisciplinary group of 24 prominent scientists and mathematicians met in the high desert of Santa Fe, New Mexico, to discuss these emerging syntheses in science. Their goal was to plot out the founding of a new research institute that would pursue research on a large number of highly complex and interactive systems which can be properly studied only in an interdisciplinary environment, and promote a unity of knowledge and a recognition of shared responsibility that will stand in sharp contrast to the present growing polarization of intellectual cultures. Thus, the Santa Fe Institute was created as a center for the study of complex systems. In 1984, I had not yet heard the term complex systems, though these kinds of ideas were already in my head. I was a first-year graduate student in computer science at the University of Michigan, where I had come to study artificial intelligence, that is, how to make computers think like people. One of my motivations was, in fact, to understand how people think, how abstract reasoning, emotions, creativity, and even consciousness emerge from trillions of tiny brain cells and their electrical and chemical communications. Having been deeply enamored of physics and reductionist goals, I was going through my own anti-reductionist epiphany, realizing that not only did current-day physics have little, if anything, to say on the subject of intelligence, but that even neuroscience, which actually focused on those brain cells, had very little understanding of how thinking arises from brain activity. It was becoming clear that the reductionist approach to cognition was misguided. We just couldn't understand it at the level of individual neurons, synapses, and the like. Therefore, although I didn't yet know what to call it, the program of complex systems resonated strongly with me. I also felt that my own field of study, computer science, had something unique to offer. Influenced by the early pioneers of computation, I felt that computation as an idea goes much deeper than operating systems, programming languages, databases, and the like. The deep ideas of computation are intimately related to the deep ideas of life and intelligence. At Michigan, I was lucky enough to be in a department in which computation in natural systems was as much a part of the core curriculum as software engineering or compiler design. In 1989, at the beginning of my last year of graduate school, my PhD advisor, Douglas Hofstadter, was invited to a conference in Los Alamos, New Mexico on the subject of emergent computation. He was too busy to attend, so he sent me instead. I was both thrilled and terrified to present work at such a high-profile meeting. It was at that meeting that I first encountered a large group of people obsessed with the same ideas that I had been pondering. I found that they not only had a name for this collection of ideas, complex systems, but that their institute in nearby Santa Fe was exactly the place I wanted to be. I was determined to find a way to get a job there. Persistence, and being in the right place at the right time, eventually won me an invitation to visit the Santa Fe Institute for an entire summer. The summer stretched into a year, and that stretched into additional years. I eventually became one of the Institute's resident faculty. People from many different countries and academic disciplines were there, all exploring different sides of the same question. How do we move beyond the traditional paradigm of reductionism toward a new understanding of seemingly irreducibly complex systems? The idea for this book came about when I was invited to give the Ulam Memorial Lectures in Santa Fe, an annual set of lectures on complex systems for a general audience, given in honor of the great mathematician Stanislav Ulam. The title of my lecture series was The Past and Future of the Sciences of Complexity. It was very challenging to figure out how to introduce the audience of non-specialists to the vast territory of complexity, to give them a feel for what is already known and for the daunting amount that remains to be learned. My role was like that of a tour guide in a large, culturally rich, foreign country. Our schedule permitted only a short time to hear about the historical background, to visit some important sites, and to get a feel for the landscape and culture.